Did you know that one of the countries built a city that can accommodate millions of residents, but it is still empty? And that the United States spent $17 billion on a huge project, but it is useless? In this episode, I will show you the 5 largest projects in the world, but they are useless. Highway H3 Hawaii. This road was built on the islands of Eua in Hawaii, with a length of 2 kilometers after the project was proposed in 1960. The goal of the project was to link the military base of Bill Harbor on the southern side with the base of the U.S. Marine Corps in Kaneohe and those on the East Coast. A project that was rejected by organizations aiming to protect the environment, as well as by local residents who were worried about the massive urban expansion that it would cause the delay in the completion of the project over several years. Finally, works began in 1989, and the highway was opened at the end of work in 1970. Although the H3 highway is an engineering marvel due to the difficult terrain on which the bridge was built and the advanced technologies that were used to complete it, in addition to its construction on a group of bridges to preserve the vegetation cover at the bottom, the project had no benefit. The cost of its completion amounted to $1.3 billion, which means about $50 million per kilometer, which is the most expensive cost per kilometer of a highway in the world. But linking the 2 military bases with each other, they no longer have any strategic importance due to the security stability in the region. As for the local residents, they refuse to drive their vehicles on that road, believing that the road is cursed and that it will cause them fatal accidents. And the reason for this is that the highway path passed by many churches and temples that were demolished to complete the work. And although the highway is still open and usable until today, but seeing the vehicles passing by is very rare. Real Sociedad Central Airport. Spain is one of the most important destinations for the tourist embassy in Europe, so the idea of building Sociedad Central Airport came to relieve the pressure on Madrid Airport. The new airport has one of the 5 longest runways in Europe and can handle about 2 million passengers annually. It is a small number compared to Madrid Airport, which receives 70 million passengers annually. Therefore, those in charge of the project decided to develop it to reach a capacity of 10 million passengers annually. The airport was officially opened in 2009, and it cost about $1.3 billion to complete it. The matter ended with the companies behind the project announcing the bankruptcy in 2012. There were many problems that were difficult to solve, most notably the airport site, although its name indicates that it is a central airport, but actually it is far from the center, as it is about 200 kilometers from the capital, Madrid, and that is what made travelers avoid flights that land in it. The major airlines also left behind organizing flights to and from the capital of Madrid, which suits travelers as well. Under these circumstances, the airport has accumulated debts worth $350 million by 2012. Then the airport was put up for auction in 2013, and during that period the runway turned into a site for the famous British Top Gear programs, and by 2019 the airport was sold to new owners. But they did not find any way to make the airport crowded with travelers as it was planned. And after the spread of the corona pandemic, the new owners found a great idea to earn some money from the airport, as it was converted into a place to store planes that were out of service at that time due to restrictions imposed on flights. And by August of the year 2020, there were 65 planes parked at the airport that could accommodate 300 planes. And although the owners have found a way to exploit the airport now, but sadly that will end once the pandemic ends, and the planes will return to work again, and the airport will remain deserted as it was when it was opened. The city of Naypyidaw. It is the new capital of Myanmar, where the authorities decided to build it starting in 2002, and the project was kept secret until it was officially announced in 2005. There were no clear reasons for changing the capital, but some experts believe that the Myanmar government fears any attack that may come from the sea, and the current capital Yangon, which resides more than 7 million citizens, will reach the limits of its infrastructure by 2050, and therefore the establishment of a new capital is a better solution to deal with this overpopulation, just as the current capital was determined in the past by the British occupation to serve British interests. But today Myanmar is an independent country, and therefore having a central capital would be a good thing in all respects. Factors that can attract residents to the area. which includes different areas from 20 tracks to more than 100 luxury hotels, golf courses, museums, and a replica of one of the most famous landmarks of the ancient capital. But the new capital lacks a very important element, which is the lack of citizens. Less than 1 million people live in the new capital today, most of whom were previously residing in the neighboring countryside before the region turned into a new capital. There is a cell of patients in the health facilities, while schools and institutes do not have any students. The new city offers a lot of job opportunities, but most residents are reluctant to move to live in it. It is rare to see a car there on the highway. And the airport that can accommodate 3.5 million passengers a year is empty. Some employees visit the malls on the weekend, but their number very few, and despite the residents' reluctance to live in the new capital, the authorities do not see any problem in that, as the government justifies what is happening by the fact that the capital was built for the future, and that it will become as populated as any other city in the coming years. Forest City, Malaysia. It is a smart and environmentally friendly city that was built by the Malaysian government on 4 artificial islands, and it is the city that aims primarily to support trade exchanges with Singapore. So, the developers are keen to find a road that connects Forest City with the city of Singapore directly. It is worth noting that this city, which will be ready by 2035, will depend entirely on renewable energy, as it includes many facilities, including educational, sports, health facilities, and others. As for its total cost, up to $100 billion. One of the 4 islands is now complete and includes 50 residential buildings, a set of golf courses, swimming pools, and artificial beaches. Although this project serves the Malaysian economy, it was the Chinese government that oversaw its financing with the help of a group of Chinese investors, which caused a difficult problem. By 2019, 90% of the completed property in the new city was owned by Chinese. Even street signs became written in Chinese. Since Malaysians cannot buy real estate in the new city due to its high prices, the Chinese have taken advantage of the situation to buy a lot of real estate there, which was the cause of the anger of the Malaysian community, who considered the new project a form of colonialism. In order to solve the problem, the Malaysian government decided to acquire the project and finance it itself, as the authorities prevented foreigners from owning real estate in that city, which prompted the Chinese to leave. That decision caused concern for investors who today do not want to invest their money in a project that witnessed many hasty decisions, which made many of them withdraw from financing the project. By the year 2020, the city's population reached 500 residents, which is a small number compared to an estimated capacity of about 700,000 residents. What made the situation worse is the corona pandemic, which made the project look like a useless smart city project. Nuclear Waste Depot in Yucca Mountain, Nevada. We will conclude the list with a huge project that has been completed to dispose of nuclear waste, as scientists believe that the best place to dispose of this waste is the depths of the earth. Therefore, starting in 1987, the U.S. authorities set out to construct a dump for that waste at a depth of 300 meters inside the Yucca Mountains, which is a mountain made of volcanic ash that was formed millions of years ago, and therefore its structure will be able to absorb radiation without causing any cracks. But the problem was that Yucca Mountain is located in the states of Nevada, while the United States of America has more than 100 nuclear reactors in 34 different states, and there is not one of them in Nevada. That is what prompted the citizens to demonstrate in the streets to cancel the project aimed at throwing nuclear waste to the rest of the states in their states. The mountain is also located in the most important water sources in the state, and storing nuclear waste in it may lead to water pollution. Despite popular opposition that the project obtained official approval in 2002 to continue work on it after stopping for several years, but by 2010 the Obama government saw that the project was impractical, so funding was cut off for him. 3 years after that, the decision of a federal court to resume the project until Joe Biden became president and stopped it again, which means that the $17 billion that was spent over 4 decades was wasted as Yucca Mountain turned into a huge nuclear waste dump. But it is not used by the U.S. authorities.